Okay, welcome. My name is Bill. I'm coming to you from Philadelphia, the home of the 2008 World Champion Philadelphia Phillies. And today we're going to make cream and chicken soup. What you're going to need is, for the stock, this is a bag of celery, 1 bag of whole carrots, and 2 medium onions, 1 whole chicken with the neck, the heart, and liver all removed. We're going to put that all into the stock. Okay? So, here's all the ingredients we're going to need today. We're going to need some milk, not all this. Some Miner's chicken base. This stuff is terrific. It comes in all different flavors: beef, fish, lobster, shrimp. I always keep some of this in the refrigerator. This is 4 cups of carrots. These are just the bullet carrots that I cut in half. These are going to go in the soup at the end in the finished product. Some flour and some butter for a roux. And 2 eggs, and I'll show you what we're going to do with them later. So basically for the stock, we're going to add all our vegetables in our large stock pot. I always suggest putting the vegetables in first. If you put the chicken in first, then put everything on top, then put it on the stove, the chicken might stick to the bottom. So always put the vegetables in first, then our chicken with everything else. Then we're going to bring it over to the stove and add the water. All right, here we are, we're back in the kitchen. And then we're going to add the water. This is 2 quarts. And you just want to cover the chicken. Here's another 2 quarts. Gallon so far. And just to cover the chicken, I'm going to add 1 more. Put this on here. We're going to bring it up to a boil. And once it brings up to a boil, we're going to lower the heat a little bit, simmer it for about an hour. Alright, it's been about 20 minutes. As you can see, our soup has got a nice rolling boil. What we want to do now is turn to a medium heat and let it simmer for about 45 minutes. You'll be able to know when you grab the chicken and it starts falling off the bone, then you'll know it's done. In the meantime, what we've done here is we're going to melt our butter for our roux. And one trick that I like to do is just throw the butter in a pot, put it on a small a low heat, and then no need to take them out of the wrappers because the wrappers will just come out. So again, that's 4 sticks of butter, 1 pound. Alright, it's been about an hour now. I would say this is done. So we're going to take the chicken out. I prefer using tongs, long handled tongs. And you want to grab the chicken from the inside and drain it without having the juice run down the tongs up your arm. So I've done that before. Alright, so take the chicken out. And now we're going to cool the chicken down. Get yourself a knife. And just cut right down the middle. Because we want to cool this chicken down as soon as possible. Alright, so we can pick it and put it in the chicken. Okay, so one thing we can do while our chicken is cooking is we're going to strain the stock. Here I have my pot with a strainer. Okay, nothing almost fit. And we're going to bring this up to a boil. Okay. Alright, here's one trick that I like to do when you're making any type of chicken soup. Is if you've ever had homemade chicken soup and it's too greasy, it's from the skin. So what I like to do, here's a trick. Not my trick, but I've definitely picked it up over the years. We're going to put some eggs right inside our stock that we brought up to a boil. And what's going to happen is we're going to pour these eggs in there and it's going to make scrambled eggs. And all the grease is going to adhere to the scrambled eggs. And that'll take all the greasiness out of our soup. See, it's nothing but greasy scrambled eggs. All right, and at this time we're going to make our roux, which we're going to put in after we put our chicken. So we have our 1 pound of butter, and a roux is equal parts butter and flour. So this should be a pound of flour, but I like to make the roux a little loose. This way you don't get, when you're adding it to the soup, you don't get any roux balls, is what they call it. It's a nice smooth consistency, so I like to make it nice and smooth. And you can make a lot of this, and you can have it and keep it in the fridge, and always have it anytime you make a, like a little sauce for dinner. You can add a little roux if you want to thicken it up. Add a little bit more flour. There you go, nice perfect roux. Okay. All right, so this is the tough part here. We're trying to pick as much chicken off as possible. So you can see it's still pretty hot, and we got a good amount of chicken right here. What you could do at this point, you could take the remaining chicken bones and the remaining stock, if you wanted to, add that to a pot and boil that down, and then strain that and use that if you had the time. Or you could do that at a later date, like freeze it, do that at a later date, and use that to make your stock for your soup the next day. All right, at this point we're almost done. What we're going to do here is we're going to add some chicken stock, some of the base to our stock. We're going to add our carrots and our chicken. Now the chicken, after we picked it from the bone, we just run a knife through it and just a rough chop. It's going to break up in the soup. We're going to add our milk. This is 1.5 quarts of milk. To our stock. All right, at this point, we're going to add our roux a little bit at a time. Because with a lot of things in cooking, it's a lot easier to add a little bit more. It's tough to take it out. Okay, so at this point, we're just going to add a little bit of the roux and get a nice thickness on here. The roux is nice and creamy. There's no balls in it of roux. So at this point, what I like to do is add a little bit of soup to the roux. Make sure I get all of it out. See how it comes like paste. Turn it off and let it sit for a minute. It'll thicken up. So I'm going to turn it off now. And if it's a little loose, that's exactly how you want it, because when you turn it off and let it sit for a minute, it'll thicken up. I really didn't put any salt and pepper, bay leaves, or anything like that. This Miner's chicken base really has everything in there that you need. All right, here you go. It's a finished product. Homemade cream of chicken soup. Look how nice and thick. Homemade cream of chicken soup from scratch. Remember, the Miner's chicken base, I definitely recommend buying some of that, keep it in the fridge. 2 things I want to touch on before I finish up is cooling this soup down. You would never want to put this whole pot in the fridge. That will cause big problems. You'd want to pour it in a bowl like this. If you don't have a bowl this size, 3 or 4 smaller bowls. And then I also keep some of these in the freezer, filled with water. Pour the soup in here, put them in here, and it cools it down. Also, when you go to reheat it the next day, you would never want to put it in a pot, put it on the stove, and walk away, because it will burn. What you want to do, put the pot on the stove, add a little of your stock, or add some milk, get that hot, and then add a little bit of soup to it, bring it up to a proper temperature. All right, I hope you enjoy this recipe. Feel free to leave a comment. Again, my name is Bill. Thanks for watching.